Welcome to the third monthly episode of the QUAICast, a Jamiroquai podcast for the Jamly by the Jamly for February 2022. And here's your host, JamiroFan 2000. What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the online Jamly? This, of course, here is JamiroFan 2000 with my third monthly episode of the QUAICast, a Jamiroquai podcast for the Jamly by the Jamly for the month of February of 2022. Beginning this episode of the QUAICast, I'm going to start with the latest news of Jamiroquai as for the month of February 2022. This latest news I'm about to read to you is accurate as of the date of the recording of this episode of the QUAICast, which would be February 6th, 2022. The Canned Heat, a Jamiroquai Party Club event featuring Jamiroquai music, smart cocktails, and lots of club fun with a Jamiroquai theming, which happened throughout the years of 2019 through 2020 in clubs throughout the United States, from San Francisco to Brooklyn to Los Angeles, Colorado, and Washington, D.C., makes a triumphant post-pandemic return to the Schimanski Club venue in Brooklyn, New York on March 5th, 2022. Tickets for this club event are currently available at various retailers and at the official venue website. The 25th anniversary vinyl reissue of Jamiroquai's album Traveling Without Moving finally released around the world on January 21st, 2022, to glowing reviews from all the worldwide music fans. I did my complete unboxing video of this reissue, and I did a QUAICast podcast read-through of JK's newly penned liner notes from this reissue, which are both available to hear and view currently on my YouTube channel. Jamiroquai guitarist Rob Harris hinted over on his respective Instagram that more new music is coming from his upcoming solo EP, which will be coming out very soon. Be sure to check out his first single that has been released, More Lemon Juice, from this upcoming EP release whenever you consume new music. In more band member news, Jamiroquai drummer Derek McKenzie was seen on his respective Instagram recently laying down some slick new drums for some upcoming new solo music from Jamiroquai keyboardist Matt Johnson. And in a related story, Jamiroquai bassist Paul Turner, on his respective Instagram, announced that he would be doing some new studio work with a very talented musician and singer Will Young. The video and posts mentioned in this news item can be found on both of our respective band members' Instagram accounts. The recently released Virtual Insanity Baklava remix set, which was originally only for pay download on select Japanese online retailers, is now available on Amazon's British and American retail website. So check out both of the Amazon retail's websites to pay download this brand new official Jamiroquai remix when you can. In a bit of related news, Jamiroquai's Virtual Insanity Baklava remix was picked by Mixmag as one of the best new tracks of 2022 so far in a very extensive article on their official website. By the way, that article is available for view on the official Mixmag website. According to thealbumcharts.com, for January 28th through February 3rd, 2022, Jamiroquai's 25th anniversary vinyl reissue of their 1996 album Traveling Without Moving entered at the album sales chart at number 27. Additionally, according to Amazon UK, Jamiroquai's 25th anniversary vinyl reissue of Traveling Without Moving is currently the number one best-selling vinyl on the retail website. I think I speak for everybody in the Jamly when I say congratulations to Jamiroquai, Sony Music UK, and everybody who consumes the great music of Jamiroquai. In a bit of Tronic tour news, due to emergency surgery on band member Iwan Van Hetten, Tronic's upcoming Pizza Delivery Live UK February 2022 tour dates have been postponed to June of 2022. The new postponed dates will be June 11th for Birmingham, UK, and June 13th for London. I think I speak for everybody in the Jamly and, of course, the fans of Tronic when we wish a speedy recovery for Iwan coming up in June for the Tronic tour dates. And finally, Jamiroquai keyboardist Matt Johnson on February 3rd, 2022 celebrated his birthday. So happy birthday, Matt, and I hope you've been enjoying the content, and I hope you had a great day with family and friends. Information to all these news items discovered in this episode of the QUAICast can be found down below in the description area of this episode on my YouTube import of this episode of the QUAICast, and, of course, down below on Anchor FM. Coming up next will be JamiroFan Talks About, looking at this post-pandemic world of 2022. What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the online Jamly? Welcome to yet another portion of the QUAICast, which I have been doing several episodes here on my QUAICast podcast of JamiroFan Talks About, which for the uninitiated has been my recurring discussion series looking at everything from the past, present, and future of Jamiroquai and their over 30 years of music making. I thought I'd record a special portion of this new monthly episode of the QUAICast looking at and commenting about how it appears that the world is finally coming out of the post-pandemic last 2 years of the COVID-19 worldwide pandemic, and it's really reassuring to see that actually bands are actually going back into massive tours, given that a lot of the music live touring industry has been shut down for the last 2 years due to the worldwide pandemic. And I just thought I'd talk about what's happening in the world and how it's really, really optimistically awesome that we are going to be having live music coming back to our ears, and hopefully new music coming from all these artists who are otherwise were being held back due to quarantines and lockdowns over the last 2 years. And we're finally realizing that to the fact that we're going to have to be living with this disease rather than constantly being scared into seclusion by every continuing coming variant of this disease. But given the latest variant, the Omicron variant is starting to taper off around the world and rates are starting to go down. It's very awesome that hopefully we're all going to be returning to a little bit of normality. I know that Jamiroquai, in regards to the pandemic, have been very vocal and been keeping themselves very busy on an individual basis, putting out new music and working on brand new music and working with artists again. And I mean, the band literally were separated by nearly 18 to 19 months between each other, but just recently came back together at the end of 2021 to start working on the ninth Jamiroquai album, which will hopefully be gracing our ears in some malleable form. According to JK, based off the liner notes from the 25th anniversary Traveling Without Moving vinyl release, to hopefully have a single done by the end of 2022 if things don't go south again with the pandemic. But it's really cool to see that music is slowly coming back. Everybody's returning to a normal life, but that doesn't mean it's not going to take us all a good amount of time to get back to some type of normality out of this post-pandemic world. But I'm very happy to see that musicians are finally coming back, bands are finally coming back, and they're hopefully going to be touring much, much more and having a lot of music fans finally come out to see their favorite bands and to support the music that they love during this really hard time. And we can all, have comfort that we are all going to be returning to some type of normality very, very soon throughout 2022. But I just thought I'd record a special little portion of the QUAICast to do a little bit of JamiroFan Talks about the post-pandemic world. And I know all well about how hard it's been during the pandemic, at least in an occupational sense, because I am considered a frontline worker. I don't like to talk about my private life, but I've been a frontline worker working in restaurants for a very long time. And this time, especially with the big worker shortage in the United States, it's been a very hard time to either A, keep a job, keep workers, or have enough workers on hand to substantiate and to run an actual business, in this case, restaurants. So I have the hard knowledge and the hard experience of having gone through the pandemic in that kind of occupational sense. But things are getting better. We should all be optimistic, and I hope we all come out the end of this pandemic tunnel better people, happier people, and a little more smart about how we treat each other and how the world should be. But I do know music's coming back strong, and we should all be very happy about that. And this ends the JamiroFan Talks About a portion of this episode of the QUAICast looking at the post-pandemic world. Coming up next will be a read-through of one of the articles from a very rarely seen 1993 Jamiroquai Fanzine, which was recently discovered about a year ago. Hello there, Jamly. This is JamiroFan 2000 here with yet another new portion of the QUAICast for February of 2022. In this part of the QUAICast, here on the end of this episode of the QUAICast for February 2022, I'm going to be reading an article from a very rare 1993 fanzine that was discovered a few years ago on eBay auction by me, and it's just a very cool piece of early Jamiroquai promotional material, which was a fanzine that was created by Sony Music back in the early days to promote Jamiroquai, mostly in the UK and the United States. That fanzine featured very rare photographs and also some very cool articles which were lifted from other newspapers in the year of 1993, basically profiling the band Jamiroquai. So I thought here on the QUAICast I'd read a couple of the articles from that fanzine so you could all, get an idea of what the early promotion of Jamiroquai and the early press promotion of Jamiroquai was like. This article in question I'm going to be reading was originally published in the Evening Standard UK's newspaper from June 23rd, 1993. The name of the article is Boy Wonder. The cocky little fellow in the DIY hat sits in the brazier and talks up a storm. Explosive finger clicks lend his utterances a staccato rhythm. He seems like the kind of fellow who might be trying to sell you a dodgy quartina. In fact, he's probably Britain's first authentic pop star in nearly a generation. JK, or JK as he is known, is a 23-year-old Londoner who grew up in Ealing and now leads a band called Jamiroquai. Last year, news leaked that they had signed an 8-album deal with the giant Sony Music, an unprecedented commitment into a band whose music is almost completely unknown to the public at large. This week, the first installment of their deal, Emergency on Planet Earth, went straight to the album charts at number 1. Jamiroquai will be celebrating this weekend with an appearance at the Glastonbury Festival of 1993. If any of these extraordinary events had surprised JK in any way, he shows no sign of it. Swinging a beer bottle between his fingers, he looks and sounds as if he saw it all coming. He was a star turned in nappies. It's a sort of attitude only found in musicians, and is rarely as any basis in fact. But this young man with an alarming sense of certainty dares you to find him wanting. He has built a very new career in some very old stones. He describes what he does as music with jazz-funk undertones. There is no box for this. This is a Jamiroquai thing. He grew up in a household filled with the voices of Lena Horne, Dinah Washington, Ella Fitzgerald, and came of age to a jazz-funk fusion experiments of Donald Byrd and Johnny Hammond. Vocally, J.K. sounds like Stevie Wonder, and he admits that Wonder was a very major influence. But then he got rather angry. Certain articles have said that I compare myself to Stevie Wonder. Bullshit. Somebody asked me who I like. I say Stevie Wonder. Then the next thing I read is they said that I was Stevie Wonder. That's an insult to him and an insult to me. I'm J.K. and he's Stevie Wonder. Unusually for the angry young Turk, J.K. has enormous respect for the music of the past. He uses old-fashioned valve equipment to capture the warmer sound. I'm not being directly retro. I'm trying to recapture a warmth that has been since 1976. Live Jamiroquai go in the search of the antiquated beast, the groove, samples, no samples, no tricks, up to 15 players stretching out over 15-minute-long songs. After the vicious metallic beat, which has been inflicted on the music fans' ears over the last years, it is not surprising that these elastic pieces have touched a chord. JK has been watching the music scene closely since he was a teenager and has an opinion of it that is rather scathing. I've watched so much cheap crap going into the charts produced by people who just really can't do it. If you can do it, you be able to do it live. If you can do it live, then you shouldn't be doing it if you can't do it live. We went from the period of 1987, 86, 87, and 88 of Australian soap stars and people like Pete Waterman washing in and making diabolical music. I felt like we were losing the quality that I found in the late 60s and late 70s music. We were losing the spirit. This is all very well, but there are a usual muddle of contradictions. J.K. is signed to a multinational company. His lyrics, as the new album clearly states, deal quite explicitly with ecological matters, but don't and multinational record labels use up the Earth's resources with more vigor than most, JK, inevitably you come across a lot of contradictions. You're talking about ecology, and you signed a £100,000 deal with a major label, he begins thoughtfully. Then he slips into a practiced white boy whine. Well, I'm sorry, mate, for taking the money, but wouldn't you? At this point, you begin to wonder if there's some artful dodger out to sell you conservation from under the folds of a Macintosh. As if sensing that the thought, he sets his bottle on the table and he works himself into an impressive rant. I'm longing for the message that I'm saying to get to an awful lot of people. I'm not naive. I'm not that stupid. What I'm saying is a very idealistic thing to say. We've 10 years to go before we've cooked this planet up. You watch the television, and before you know it, starving children have become a drama show. It's not funny anymore. It'll all come back around on us. He builds into a diatribe against the world economic system, an edifice so apparently fragile that it could even be swept away by one earthquake in Japan. He speaks persuasively about London's growing band of homeless, how growing band of homeless who could be comfortably accommodated by hundreds of beautiful renovated buildings. He rails against the destruction of Dubrovnik. He defends Sting voraciously and noisily berates George Michael. All politicians are savage. He lines a black man up against a white man and finds them as equals. J.K. is the very model of a young utopian, a direct descendant of the hippies of the 60s, but at once harder and more idealistic. His belief in the power of music is total and touching. If he sings for long enough, the belief that the world will listen. With 7 more albums to go, he certainly got the scope. But does he have a big ego? Does Jerry Hall have their own party frock? And that's the end of that article from the 1992 Jamiroquai Fanzine, of the article entitled Wonder Boy, which was, of course, as I prefaced at the beginning of this section of the QUAICast, published in the Evening Standard UK newspaper of June 23rd, 1993. I do have plans on reading the other articles from this fanzine, but if you'd like to check out actual HD scans of this fanzine and see for yourself, be sure to check the description area of this episode of the QUAICast on Anchor FM, and, of course, import on YouTube to check out this rare fanzine for yourself when you can. As always, this is JamiroFan 2000. I hope you enjoyed this another monthly episode of the QUAICast. This makes the 20th total episode of content for the QUAICast podcast that I have produced and recorded and put out to everybody on the online Jamily to check out. I hope you've enjoyed the QUAICast episodes so far, with all the special episodes that JamiroFan Talks About, and these monthly episodes. And I do have no plans of stopping on doing QUAICast episodes in the future when the news befits it. And I have a feeling that 2022 is going to have a lot of news coming from Jamiroquai down the pipeline very soon. But as always, thank you for liking and subscribing and for listening to this episode of the QUAICast. And if you'd like to support me, be sure to go over to the Anchor FM /QUAICast page to subscribe and stay there, or just subscribe to me on YouTube or on Instagram to stay up to date on all the latest content coming from the QUAICast podcast. Thank you again to everybody who have been listening to this QUAICast podcast and enjoying and getting all their latest news from Jamiroquai. I'll be sure to have certainly more coming down the pipeline as the months progress into the 30th year of Jamiroquai. As always, this is JamiroFan 2000. Take care, everyone. I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.